Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel after a short break because I was on holiday. This isn't a review of The Rebel Flesh. I know everyone is just positively oh, where's that review of The Rebel Flesh? It'll get it. It'll get it. But other news broke while I was on holiday, and there's been some gossip and all that kind of stuff. So we figured this week we would just talk about what's new in Doctor Who. Only one thing is confirmed, which is that Millie Gibson is the new companion. This was announced, a week, 2 weeks ago now?
Whenever
Children
Children
Need was, yeah. So yeah, probably about 2 weeks ago, I think. Which is nice to see Doctor Who doing stuff for Children in Need. It's always nice when they do these additional ones. I think there was a bit of a gap where they stopped doing it. I think during Capaldi's run, they didn't really do much there.
I think they released like clips of upcoming stuff. Because I remember the Twice Upon a Time clip for Children in Need 1 year and stuff like that.
There you go. So
I suppose depending on when it is, there's not really much they can offer.
Yeah, I suppose. But because sometimes they would do, especially during series like 1 to 5, they'd have little short Minnesota type things. Time Crash is one of the infamous ones for that one.
Yeah, remember series 6 they had Naked Matt Smith.
Of course, who could forget? But yeah, so it was nice to have a nice little moment in Children in Need, which I think the presenters kept teasing quite a lot. I think, judged from, I didn't watch it live, but judging from Twitter, it seemed like a lot of people were like waiting, and they kept going, "Oh, Doctor Who's coming," and then it took a good half an hour before.
Yeah. I would have watched it live, but I was watching Wakanda Forever, so
yeah, that's fair enough. I can't remember. I was somewhere doing something. What was I doing? I was in a queue at Islands of Adventure in Universal Studios. So
there you go.
That's where I was.
We both have our excuses.
Yep, exactly. But yes, Millie Gibson, who is only 18 years old and is just off the back of Coronation Street.
Indeed.
I think.
Playing Kelly for 4 years.
I mean, I don't think she's done much else if she's been doing that for 4 years and she's only 18.
Yeah.
So it's unlikely that other people would have seen it. It's unlikely that people from outside of the UK would have seen her in anything. So, it's basically a blank slate. It could be whatever we want. We've had these types of companions before where they've come in and they've been fairly unknown. Pearl Mackie, I think, is a sort of prime example of someone that's not really been that big, and especially Tozin and Mandip from the more recent series as well. So what do you think of this?
And they both also came from a soap because they were in Hollywood.
Oh yeah, and so did Jenna Coleman. It has a precedent for casting soap stars in Doctor Who.
Yeah, I think they're slowly filling out like all the soap stars being companions. I think it's just like EastEnders that we need now.
It will get there. It will get there. That's BBC as well. Absolutely. Isn't it? Is EastEnders BBC?
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll get there then. It'll get there. I mean, to be fair, it's strange that they've not taken the one from BBC, but they've taken the 2 from ITV.
Yeah, they want to stick it to ITV.
Emmerdale and Coronation Street.
Yeah.
So I'm sure all the American viewers will be like, "Oh yeah, I better go and watch Emmerdale." Yeah.
I better catch up on 35 years of Emmerdale.
Oh God, could you imagine?
Catch up on 40 years of EastEnders.
These soaps are long running, okay? A lot of people have been in there. A lot of Doctor Who actors have been in there, mainly before they're in a show. Bradley Walsh was in a soap as well.
He was in Coronation Street, for years.
So
that was like his breakout thing. Colin Baker was in Emmerdale a couple of months ago.
That was after the fact, though. So
I know, but it's still iconic.
I think hasn't Peter Davison been in one of them as well?
I don't know. He was in All Creatures Great and Small, which is what he got cast from, but I don't think that's a soap, is it?
Anyway, we digress from British soaps. Millie Gibson, your thoughts?
It should be alright. Yeah. Again, I haven't seen her in anything. On her filmography is 5 things, including Doctor Who, on Wikipedia. So very young, obviously. She started acting when she was like 14. So I don't watch Corrie. So I haven't seen her. I knew of her when she was cast. Since I read the name, I was like, that sounds really familiar, because they've been really hyping up her exit from Coronation Street in the weeks prior, because they use like new kind of technology, I think, for her exit when they filmed on rooftop scenes and stuff, like the nice fancy backgrounds that they used in movies for like blue screens and stuff. So even the soaps are tackling that kind of thing now. And yeah, she'd won like Best Newcomer and all sorts of awards for playing Kelly on the show. And yeah, as soon as it kind of got announced, like, oh, that's why she left. Trying to do kind of new different things, which is fair enough when she's that young. And if she's getting those kind of accolades at 18 for a role she's been playing since she was 14, I would have to assume she's quite a good actress. Again, I haven't seen her act in anything, but I have full confidence that she clearly nailed that audition. And yeah, she's clearly got the acting chops for it, so I'm very excited to see what she kind of brings to it. I think when a lot of companions have been cast, I haven't really seen them in anything. I hadn't seen Pearl Mackie in anything, etc. I had seen Jenna Coleman, to be fair. That's like the only one I think I've been aware of prior.
The only one for me was probably Catherine Tate, I guess, with some awareness of Catherine Tate, but
yeah,
even then.
Yeah, and obviously I know you have Bradley Walsh and John
Bradley
Bishop,
Walsh, yeah.
That's about it. And I did watch Amanda Gill Diana Hollyoaks before she was cast.
Yay!
So, I was aware of her as well a bit. But for the most part, companions have often been unknown to me. So yeah, she's just going to kind of, I assume, add to that long list of companions that I wasn't aware of before they're in the show. But they still are wonderful in the show. So I'm very excited. I think it's a good casting call. She definitely kind of looks the part in those photos with Shooty that they kind of took together from the interviews and stuff we've gotten with her, that clip of her on Children in Need and the behind the scenes with her and Shooty kind of interviewing each other. She seems really down to earth, really likable, very excited about the part. And her and Shooty seem to have really nice chemistry just behind the scenes. So I'm very excited to actually see what it's going to be like in the show for them. I think they clearly get along very well already. So yeah, hopefully a pairing for the ages. But I'm really excited to see what she does. I think she's going to be really good.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, also, how good of soap actors themselves have to be very good at their jobs because they film on like a daily basis because it's a daily show. They have to be constantly on it and constantly going.
Yeah, it's a grueling schedule for soaps.
So she's probably getting a bit of a break doing Doctor Who than she was doing Corrie, to be fair. But she's been doing that for 4 years, so she obviously has a lot of experience. And I know like Russell really likes British soaps. Like I think he's quite a fan of the writing and all that stuff. A lot of Doctor Who actors, Doctor Who writers come from soap backgrounds as well. I think even Russell himself wrote on some soaps.
I think Phil Collinson, who was the producer of RTD, the first year, and he's coming back for this one. I think he was the producer of Corrie for a couple of years, so they all have that experience.
It is a good sort of grounds for actors and writers and directors. So it wouldn't be surprising if we see more of that coming over. The character's name is Ruby Sunday. There's concerns that she is a 21st century teenager in a similar vein to a certain other R-named companion from Russell's first go at the show. Are you concerned about the similarities there? Is there, we've not seen anything of the character. We've not seen anything of, what it could actually be. But
no,
on paper, it's very similar to Rose.
Is
there a concern there?
I mean, I'm not really going to be concerned until I see it, and she's exactly the same as Rose, I guess. I think maybe if we weren't also getting a character called Rose in the 60 specials, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I can kind of see those concerns warranted when we've got that information out there. But, it's not going to be a carbon copy. I'd be very surprised. At the end of the day, if she's a good character, then I'm okay with it, whatever they kind of do with her. It would be nice to do something a bit different from like 21st century, kind of companion. But I think that's just what the new series likes to do, and it's clearly worked for the new series all this time. So yeah, it's definitely going to be a wait and see situation with it. And you can write a character on paper exactly the same way as another character, and the actor's going to do something completely different with the line readings and bring a very different kind of thing to it. So I'm sure the difference will be quite vast. But yeah, I saw a tweet that was like, I think it's hilarious that Shooty's going to get a companion that looked like he did a week ago, which I thought was really funny. So I quite like the memeability of that at the moment and those comparisons, but I think they're ultimately going to be proven unwarranted. So I'm not really that concerned. But at the end of the day, I think as long as the character's good.
Yeah, I mean that is fair. And I think part of me thinks that after the 60th, Russell's very much gone for a right, cut everything here, we'll wipe it clean. We'll go back to your generic one companion doctor, male, female type thing. We'll have that. That will be the basis, and then we'll get weirder as we go on. Because you can even see that in 1 to 4, it kind of spans out and it gets a bit weirder, not to the extent of Classic Who where they had aliens and that kind of stuff. But I think that'll be where it goes. Eventually, they just want to make this version, the first version, as sort of as easy for people to access as possible, and as easy for people to get on board with, so they don't have to be like, oh, they're from planet whatever, or they're from whenever. It's just easier to do it like this for now.
And then they can bring K9 back in their second series. Yes,
exactly.
I think I can picture Millie Gibson with K9. It seems right to me.
It wouldn't surprise me if we get a K9 return at some point, surely, because it's been what, 10, 12, 14 years since we've seen
years,
K9.
It was Journey's End, wasn't it?
I mean, well, I guess if you count him in Doctor Who or Sarah Jane, because in Sarah Jane I don't know when it was, but for Journey's End it would have been 14 years ago, 2008. It's mad that's been a while, but he's getting his own film, so let's not forget
that's happening.
Still in production.
It is still happening, folks. Apparently, him versus Omega. It's going to happen.
Yeah, it's definitely
been happening for about 7 years now. It's going to happen.
Yeah, ever since 2008, he's been getting his own film.
Okay.
I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure. Yeah, I could see something like that coming back in. It would make sense to bring K9 back in because it's been so long since come back. Depends what they also want to do elsewhere, because is he with Luke at the minute? Is that where they left him?
I think in that Goodbye Sarah Jane thing, he went off with Ace, and he obviously wasn't in power.
Okay.
So I think it doesn't really matter because they just
throw him up. Yeah, there he is. I just found him. He's just following the. It's like that TikTok trend with the snail that follows you around to make you immortal. Except it's K9 following the Doctor and just never catching up to him.
I know it's an incredibly hard prop to work with, so that I doubt he'll ever be back long term. But
just get one of them toys.
It'd be nice.
Get one of those toys that they made. They were fine. That was basically the same thing.
Sure. Yeah. Basically the same thing. Definitely the same size.
So that Millie Gibson joining the show is the only concrete news we've had in the past couple of weeks, which is good. You know, not really expecting much to come out recently. They filmed the 60th.
Isn't the publicity?
they're not marketing it. Oh, how dare they? You know, they are filming now. I think they're filming series.
The rumor is it starts tomorrow.
Okay,
apparently, as we record this, I don't know when you're uploading this.
Probably today as well, to be fair.
Okay, good.
It could be that we get some new set photos and new stuff out over the next couple of weeks as they film. But really,
it depends if they're in like studios for the first few weeks, because I don't know if they're ready to reveal Shooty's costume yet or anything.
No, I can't imagine. But when they do, that will be fun. But that is the only hard news we've had. Everything else that we'll talk about is pure speculation and rumor based on a number of different articles and leaks from different people and all that kind of stuff. So if you only want to listen to us talk about stuff that is confirmed, you can go away now, because this will be all speculation and we could spoil some stuff or whatever. So the first one we'll talk about is, and I'm going to pronounce her last name terribly, Miriam Margolyes, I think is how we decided it was pronounced. She plays Professor Sprout in the Harry Potter films. She has been rumoured to be cast in the 60th anniversary. No idea on who she would be playing. But if she's only just been cast, the likelihood is it's for a character that didn't need to be on set, or at least the voice didn't need to be on set for it. So
she's Millie Gibson's grandmother.
Yeah, it could be, to be fair, which would be nice. I'd take that. But if it's the 60th, the character that a lot of people have said she could be playing is the infamous Beep the Meep. The weird rabbit alien that is appearing, or seems to be appearing, in the 60th. I really like that casting. I think it sounds like it's a great role, and I think she'd have a lot of fun with it. Like, even just if it's half as chaotic as her interviews are, I think the character would be great. Any thoughts on her potentially being in the show? Would you see it as Beat the Meat? Is it wasted if she is, or?
I definitely. I mean, she's going to be popping up at some point, I would assume. You know, there's that photo of her having dinner with David and Georgia Tennant a few weeks ago. It's like, okay, there were some connections there. I think she's absolutely hilarious. I love her. So it'd be great to kind of see her in any capacity in the show. I can see it. I think I don't know how Beep the Meep's supposed to sound or anything, or I think it only ever normally says Meep. So
it's only in the comic as well. So
yeah, it could just be her going Meep Meep, but that would still be quite funny. Although I mean, I have no idea how I'm going to feel about Beep the Meep until the episode airs, I guess. But this is certainly a good thing in the positive column, I would say, if she's doing the voice, because I do think she would go batshit crazy with it and just go wild. If it's anything like her appearance in Merlin, that episode is kind of chaotic as well. So she definitely, there's a precedent for it for sure. So yeah, I don't know anything about Beep the Meep as a character really, but I could very much see it being the case that she's going to be voicing that role, and it will probably be, at the very least, memeable, which I'm always here for.
Meepable.
Well, yeah, people have got their wires crossed, and maybe she's in the next era as well as like a character in that, which would also be great as long as she kind of pops up. But it seems like that's a very likely thing that we're going to see / hear her in the show. And yeah, if anyone has to voice Beep the Meep, I guess I would choose Miriam, I suppose. So yeah, we'll see. I think that's probably what it's going to be, and I am intrigued by that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think if she plays a mother figure to Ruby, I guess it's maybe there is some concern there that again we're following the Rose format of having a relative that stays at home and they blah blah blah. But again, who knows? The rumor is 60th. People online have suggested Beep the Meep. It could be that she's a completely different character and she's actually already filmed her stuff, and now only news is leaking.
Yeah.
But we will only know when it comes out or when they confirm it. Which who knows? We will know this time next year. We will definitely know for sure if she's in.
It would have all have aired by this time next year. Yeah.
So we'll know for sure.
We will.
The next sort of rumor, and this comes in with the whole Disney Plus giving Doctor Who a load of money, basically. So if you didn't know, Disney Plus is now going to be the home of Doctor Who outside of the UK, everywhere. And apparently it's turning the episodes to 100. It was like £100 million budget, £100 million budget or something.
Apparently,
like that.
I don't buy
Apparently, unlikely, but I think it's safe to say that they are going to get a big, nice chunk of change from this.
Yeah, they'll get an increase, I think,
and also because
they'll see how it does before they increase it. I don't think they'd slap that much money on it straight away.
No, but then you also, it's not as if Doctor Who's an unproven property, so they could already know that it's effectively a safe bet. It's already been marketed by the Disney Plus social channels, so they are already on board. It's clearly not a sort of behind the scenes, we'll just give you the money and put it out there like it sometimes can do with other ones. So I think these next two are off the back of that. The first one is fresh off the back of Indiana Jones 5. Phoebe Waller-Bridge is allegedly being tapped to produce, right,
I believe
so. She allegedly, Russell's only going to be here for a few years, which I think we all kind of assumed would be the case anyway, that he would come in and just sort of help see it into the next bit and then leave. The first rumor is that he will just stay on as an executive producer, which I think is a smart thing to do, to have someone continue through. We see it with Kevin Feige and Kathleen Kennedy at Star Wars and Marvel, and they're not making the stuff, but they're across it, so they know what's happening. So it wouldn't surprise me if that's true. But Phoebe Waller-Bridge on board as a writer, I think, would be a smart move. Would she stop doing her James Bonds, her Indiana Jones, and settle for Doctor Who on Disney Plus? I wouldn't.
How much of that she gets?
Yeah, it would depend on how much they want to pay her. But if she's still a fairly up and coming, producer, director, actor, I couldn't see, if it was me, I wouldn't want to settle down for that. But at the same time, from a fan point of view, I think it'd be great if she was sort of involved. I think, what she does, obviously Fleabag is the sort of most iconic written and starring role for her, and she did great with whatever she changed on James Bond, the most recent one, because that was very well done, and there was concerns about that before she came into it.
She was the showrunner of the first series of Killing Eve as well, which is a massive success.
There you go. She was okay in Solo. I don't know how much.
She was that robot.
She was the robot in Solo.
Yeah.
She's the Millennium Falcon.
You can't win them all.
No, and then she looks fine in Indiana Jones. Obviously, we've only just got the trailer for that, so we'll wait and see how that does. But I mean, I'm open for this. I think it adds in a younger viewpoint on the show. No offense to Russell, but he's not exactly young.
I can imagine him not wanting to do as much writing this time around.
Yes, and I can definitely see him stepping back into the executive producer role, and Phoebe Waller-Bridge sort of taking it and making it more. They have similar politics views. I think they're very. You can see how they align with each other. I think, and I think she would be great to have on board. I don't necessarily know if she would be. What do you think? Can you see any chance of this happening, or is it just kind of throw the name out there?
I would love it to be true. Out of all the rumored things, this is the one I'd really hope is the case. But again, unlikely, isn't it? Really, because she's like a smash hit superstar now. But who knows how she feels about Doctor Who? She might be really passionate about it and always wanted to work on it. And this is like her dream role.
As most English actors and writers are, they all love Doctor Who and they all want to get involved. So
exactly. And she might be like, oh, I'll do it for a year, sure. And then it's she still has plenty of time to do other things if that's going to be the case. But yeah, I would love to see her her vision of Doctor Who. I think it would be quite interesting. Her whole spin on it. So I watched Fleabag only a couple months ago, and it was amazing. So her writing's kind of top notch, and she's been a showrunner before on Killing Eve, so it's not like she's completely new to what the responsibilities of a role like that. And yeah, I would love it. I think she's really talented. But again, it's probably not the case. Even if she just wrote one episode or something, that would be fun.
I mean, Neil Gaiman's done 2 episodes, so
exactly, yeah. People do have that love of Doctor Who out there, even if they're, they've got their own super famous franchises of their own, like Neil Gaiman. So yeah, I would like to think these rumors have come from somewhere, even if it's something as basic as she's just writing an episode for it at some point. Or she's voicing Beep the Meep. Who can say? But
you never know.
Maybe they swap voices and just don't mention it. Like every other line is just a different.
Miriam's the showrunner. Who would have guessed?
Can you imagine? Wow, the Doctor would be dropping the C-bomb all the time.
Oh god,
that'd be amazing.
Disney Plus just scrambling around, going, "No, you can't do this."
What? No. Yeah. So I would really like that idea. I hope there's some truth to it in however way you can spin it. It'd be really exciting if that was the case. But again, she's quite busy, it would seem, nowadays. Is there any truth to it? I guess we'll have to wait and see. But I would really, really love there to be some truth in that.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if Doctor Who starts attracting sort of bigger names. It has done before, as you mentioned with Neil Gaiman. I think is it Peter Jackson? He's obviously always been rumoured to be wanting to direct an episode.
Yeah.
So there has been these links before. It's not as if Doctor Who is averse to having big stars and big names in and around the show. There's been countless big name actors that have shown up or have gone on to be big names. So it could happen. But again, I think she's so hot property that it would be very difficult for them to tie her down. Again, it might only be in 3-4 years time that they decide to do it, so maybe they're only just sort of going, hey, in 5 years time, would you maybe fancy it?
Putting some feeders out.
But who knows? It's just one that we'll have to wait and see. I'm sure we'll, as soon as it's decided, if it's going ahead, we'll find out. And that's the kind of thing that they'll want to talk about, I could imagine. And it's not as if she'll be in the show, so they can kind of get away with putting that news out whenever. But we shall see. The other thing to come out of all the Disney Plus rumors is the potential spin-off for Villains. An interesting one. I wouldn't have said Villains would be the top spin-off that I'd have seen.
No.
So I think the report is kind of saying, they're going to look in the Sontarans, Weeping Angels, Sea Devils, and then the Cybermen and the Daleks and all this. What do you think of this? Do you think, I mean, obviously we've not seen anything, it's not confirmed, but are spin-offs based on villains something that you think could work?
It could probably work, depending on which villain you chose and how many of these kind of shows you made. But I just think the idea of itself is quite boring. I think it's kind of the basic idea of like 5-year-old child, you want to spin off, what's it going to be about? Daleks. Like, okay, but you know, what's the story there? What's the hook? You know, what other characters are involved? So I don't know. I think Doctor Who villains are at their most interesting fighting the Doctor on Doctor Who. And if you just have the Doctor guest star in their shows, then it's just Doctor Who, really, isn't it? So I think, you know, it needs to be like a very different departure from Doctor Who, like Torchwood was, like Sojo Ventures was, you know, maybe a different audience, stuff like that. So if they do have different audiences, I think it could make more sense. But I just can't see, you know, maybe the Daleks, but I couldn't see that the Cybermen kind of carry their own show, even though, you know, they're my favorite villains, and even I can't see that. But I guess, you know, Big Finish do lots of spin-offy stuff, and they're still going.
But they're
so
still normally Doctor Who based, though, aren't they? They're not. I mean,
that's
they've
true.
done Davros, haven't they? They've done a Davros one, but other than that,
yeah, I suppose. So yeah, I can't say it's the most exciting idea for me, just off the back of that. But again, you could happily watch it and be surprised and like, oh wow, they've actually done something really interesting with this. And they'd have to probably go quite a different direction with where they took the villains and the story and stuff, and exactly how they framed it. Maybe if it was only like a mini series, like 4 or 5 episodes or something, you know, I could see that being more likely to work. But I can't say for me personally, I would be that intrigued to check them out. I'm happy with just Doctor Who at this point, to be honest. I don't need all the spin-offs in the world. You know, I would say maybe focus on Doctor Who with this new deal for a year or two, and then think about spin-offs. So the fact that we're hearing about them already, and like maybe let's slow down a bit. But again, I might watch them and really enjoy them for all I know. So, you know, we'll have to, I guess, it's another wait and see situation, really. I imagine that's not the only concept that they have for spin-offs, and there would be other different ideas, and those would be the ones that I'd probably rather check out, and then just kind of see how everyone feels about a Dalek-focused spin-off or a Cyberman-focused one. I think the potential's there for it to be good, as everything has in regards to Doctor Who. They just have to tread it really carefully and really take their time developing it, I suppose, rather than just saying, "Oh yeah, this will do. Have some Dalek shoot some people and call it a day." I'd want there to be more substance to it than that, and I'm sure there would be. But yeah, I'd have to wait and see exactly what their like synopsis for the show would be, and what ideas they have for it, and how long is the show and stuff. I mean, shows aren't 22 episodes anymore anyway, so I don't think that would be a concern. I think if they announced a Dalek show and it's 22 episode season, it's like, oh god, no. So you know, that's not really a concern I need to have anymore. But yeah, it's another wait and see. There's potential, but I can't say the concept of villain spin-offs particularly grabs me.
Yeah, I think I would prefer it if it was the whole concept of the spin-off was that it was a different villain every week kind of thing that you focus on. And then I would like it even more if it was certain adventures, certain interactions with the Doctor from the other point of view. I know most of the time the villains are doing bad things, so it would be very hard to be like, hey, look, we're just trying to do something good. But maybe you can frame it around, you know, you could kind of do it for the Daleks, where you could argue that they're trying to survive on their planet by fighting this war, and the Doctor picks the other side, and then you have sort of the impact on them, and it makes the Doctor look like the villain. I think there's some interesting things you could do there with certain villains. Other ones are just evil for being evil, so that would be a tricky one to do.
You could have villains fighting each other. I think that would work.
Yeah, I think there's some scope there. I think there are some villains that are also more interesting, like the Weeping Angels. There's all sorts of stuff around their lore you could explore. You know, I think you could, even if you wanted to do a Cybermen one, you could do one about almost a Age of Steel type series, where instead of it all happening in like one episode, you sort of spread out more into how these Cybermen are coming about, how people are getting there. Maybe you do it like an Andor-esque series where you follow someone that's fighting against this empire thing, but then again, it's more of it's a hero, you know. So I think there's different things you could do. There's potential there, but it's always going to be difficult with villains. I haven't seen Cruella, so I don't know how well that worked in terms of putting a villain front and center. But you know, we have seen, I mean, Joker worked clearly very well, and that's a villain story. So there are ways you can do it, but I guess it just depends how you do it.
It's that danger of oversaturation as well. People think the Daleks are overused now. Imagine they get a whole spin-off that's just about them, and that's going to be marketed all over the place. Like, oh, the fucking Daleks, piss off. And if you give these villains the spin-offs and give them so much screen time, when they appear on the main show, it's like, and you want it to be an event when these old villains come back. but it just wouldn't be. So
no, and then you can, I mean, you can
carefully.
argue that Disney have had the sort of the practice with things like Mandalorian, where Boba Fett appeared in the Mandalorian episode, and you're like, oh my god, this is great, and then Boba Fett has his own thing, and you're like,
yeah.
And then Mando appears in Boba Fett,
and they made it, and they just made it the Mandalorian for a couple of episodes.
So there is that risk of you could do this spin-off and have it focus on the Cybermen, and then the Doctor appears in the episode. You're like, well, hey, now we're kicking, and then we, you know,
and it's Doctor Who. You know, like the best episode of this Dalek spin-off was when it was a Doctor Who episode.
Yeah, so. Exactly. So there are risks inherently in that, but you would hope that by the time these come around, they'll have had time to work on these and think about them. Because I've not got any problems with them coming up with these spin-off ideas. Because again, this is a show that is already 60 years old. There's only been a handful of spin-offs in that 60 years, and there hasn't been a proper one since 2016, 17 with Class.
Yeah,
and that wasn't very well received. So you can argue that, you know, they might want to be ready for 24 to kick off with a new series of the main show, and then also some new ones if they want to do the Marvel and the Star Wars a series, then a couple of week break, then a separate series in the universe, and a couple of thing break. Although that might be changing moving forwards now that there's a bit more of a structural change at Disney. I think they're aiming now for more of a quality over quantity, whereas for Phase 4 at least it was quantity over quality. Due to the different managerial styles at Disney, which has now reverted to the pre-Phase 4 stuff. So we will see how that goes and what that could even mean for Doctor Who, because for all we know, Bob Iger could come in and go, oh, I don't want this crappy British show. Go away.
That'd be awful. That'd be brutal. But...
I mean, I wouldn't think so, because I think even Bob Iger has the foresight to know that it's a good.
He'd at least give it a shot now a deal's been made. I feel like
100%. The man that brings in all the IPs isn't going to go, I don't want this IP.
I don't want this shitty British one.
I think he'll be fine, but I do think it sort of gives me more faith that the way Disney is now sort of going to be managed for the next few years and hopefully into the future, that we will get quality over quantity, rather than concerns that people have had that it's going to be a Marvel and a Star Wars. Everything's going on.
Yeah.
But we will see. That's like the next 4 years of the show, if it lasts that long. It's going to be going on for at least that length of time, which some people were concerned that it might not last much longer because of all sorts of viewing figures. It didn't seem that the BBC was that interested in it, even though they clearly are, but they just weren't publicly facing that. It wasn't doing so well in viewing figures with, BBC wasn't updating the way they showed the show. Whereas with Disney Plus now on board, they have that way of going, now viewing figures don't matter because it's on the biggest streaming platform in the world. We can just put it on there and it will get eyes, and more eyes than it gets with us just trying to do it ourselves.
Yeah.
Hopefully, as long as people like it.
We'll see. If anything, it's going to get more views, because Doctor Who's doing fine compared to all the other shows on BBC.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But
100%.
This is something a bit different. Doctor Who was nearly cancelled in 1964. It was 1 year old. They were like, maybe it's time to end it. So, it's always in danger of cancellation, as every show is.
Every show is. At least I'm more confident that this deal's been done with Disney than it has been with Netflix. Because Netflix do not like shows that do not get at least 50 million views.
Exactly, yeah.
They will bin them all. Whereas Disney Plus, they don't say they're cancelling a show. They just might not make a new series of one. Or if they do, it will be like years in advance.
Yeah.
They've recently done a behind the scenes of Animal Kingdom documentary. The first series came out in like 2019, and then it was just radio silence. And then this week they were like, oh yeah, next month series 2's out. I was like, oh okay, didn't realize you were still making that, but thanks. So we'll see how it goes. I'm excited for the potential future of the show. I'm excited for how it's hopefully going to be handed over post Russell. If the executive producer stuff is in there, I'm sure they'll find, again, with Disney's backing and support, they'll probably have access to a wider pool of writers and producers.
I think it's just a better looking deal as well. The reason they really struggled to find a showrunner after Stephen Moffat was because they know how the showrunners are treated by the fans and stuff. I was like, why would I want to work on a show that doesn't get the biggest budget in the world? And I'm going to get all that shit to the point where I have to close all my social media accounts. But now that they have like this involvement with Disney,
it's with Disney Plus, they're going to get even more hate
and more money, which I think softens the deal quite a bit, because they're actually going to have probably a
The budget
decent-ish
and
budget to work with,
bit
so
more
they can actually
reach.
make their vision. And yeah, it's also just in terms of their own careers, it's probably going to open a lot more doors.
Oh
They're
yeah,
going to have
definitely.
more eyes on the show, and people being like, "Oh, this guy who's been doing Doctor Who recently, you know,
Let's give him a
he's
Star
done a
Wars
good job.
episode.
Let's give him this. Let's give them that. Let's
Yeah.
offer them this, so they can kind of still have stuff to move on to." And I
Yeah.
think it's just probably a better appealing looking deal for this point for showrunners.
Yeah.
So I think the future's quite secure with this now.
And I mean, say what you want about some of the Star Wars shows, but they look stunning. Like every episode of any Star Wars show looks incredible, with whatever directors they have. Even Andor recently has been excellent and very well shot and very well written. And the guy that did direct Andor, the first few episodes, was the guy that did
Toby Haynes, isn't it?
Yes, the guy that did the series 5 finale. So
yeah, he
series
did
5 finale, series 6 2-part and the Christmas special.
Yeah, Christmas special in between.
That
So a great
So,
run of
you know,
episodes from him.
It all comes full circle in the end. Doctor Who is everywhere, guys. Whatever you see, Doctor Who's been involved.
Pretty much.
Guaranteed.
There's a bit of Doctor Who in everyone.
Yeah, yep.
Certainly is. In the lawsuit.
I think that's it for the latest gossip and updates and news. Naturally, again, if they're starting filming this week, I'm sure we'll have more to talk about in the future. I promise that we'll watch the Rebel Flesh this week. We will torture ourselves with it. I'm really hoping that we come to this and it's great. I'm really hoping that it's good.
I think we're definitely gonna be like, it's better than we had anticipated, because we've
really
really milked this at this point.
Yes,
and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, if it does turn out they're like, oh, this isn't as bad as I thought, then great. You know, we've done ourselves a favor. But I don't have faith that that'll happen.
That's not the attitude.
No, it's not. But yeah, that'll be it. Hopefully we'll be back next week with the Rebel Flesh in series 6.
Rebel.
But until then, bye.
Bye.